on that note,
Hmm.
you say that you can predict someone's Myers-Briggs.
Yes, but see, I don't. I haven't spent enough. I need more time. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
that's
Like,
fair. That's fair.
this is yes, yes, but I don't. I'm not. I'm not there yet. We'll
Maybe
see. I
another
don't even.
half hour.
Maybe another another half hour.
You're listening to the AVIT Amplifier. Each week, we'll feature voices and ideas that need to be amplified in the higher education and pro AV IT communities. This show is brought to you by higheredav.com. And now here's your host, Ryan Gray.
Well, hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning in again to the AVIT Amplifier. As always, my name is Ryan Gray, and I am your host today. And we have a fun and special guest to bring you today, as we do all the time. And this is a fun one for me because it's somebody that I know a little bit, but haven't really spent a lot of time talking to. And sometimes that's more fun where I get to kind of get to know somebody alongside everybody who's listening. So, Chris, thank you so much for being here today. Thank you for taking the time to talk with me. Could you introduce yourself? Who are you and what do you do?
Yeah, so I am Chris Kelly. I work up at Creighton University in Omaha. I am a senior IT support specialist. So we have the learning environments team, is what we call it up here, and
Nice.
that's the team that handles the projectors, the audio, just the instructor PC in the room, so not like the lab PCs, and then the things that help make it run outside of the room as well, obviously for the audio and things like that.
And obviously lots of basketball fans will all know Creighton, the Creighton Blue Jays, because again, like one of the things I love about college basketball is small places you can punch above your weight class, as to where football, is kind of big schools, big programs, big whatever. So, um, what is your guys' Omaha campus look like? What's your population? You know what I'm saying? How, what does that look like? And then, of course, like I've talked about, and it's been fun to have Arizona campus Creighton people kind of involved in our little Arizona cohort we got going on. So, what does the whole footprint of Creighton look like?
Yeah, so Creighton, we're fortunate enough to have our primary campuses here in Omaha.
Mhm.
We do have a building down there in Phoenix, a seven-floor building. I've had the benefit of going down there and assisting a little bit. And then we do have a fairly new little campus over in the Dominican Republic as well.
Nice.
But again, small space there, small footprint there, as well as Phoenix. Here in Omaha, we've got a decent sized footprint. As far as our students go, kind of overall between, we are about evenly split between undergrads and grads. We have about 4,400 undergrads and about 4,200 grad students. Our biggest draw, like for grad, would be like medicine and then kind of that pharmacy, OT, PT. But then we do also have grad schools for dentistry, law, and then business and things like that. So we've got a pretty nice gamut there that we're spread across. And then
Not
everything here in Omaha is really walking distance, which is helpful. It's not far flung across, but we do have a little bit that we support out at a couple of hospitals that are more driving distance. So we have a couple spots around town that we have to drive to on occasion.
cool. So, is that like you guys, your teams, like your team in Arizona, separate team? You guys are sort of and this is just because it was in there in sort of decentralizing locations. Has that changed sort of how you guys have worked through systems and thinking about that, or has it been a little more like if we're going to be in another place, we're going to have localized teams for all that, so remote monitoring and stuff is less of a priority?
We do definitely have our separate teams. We don't really even have like much of an IT team for the DR.
Hmm.
Phoenix, we definitely do have a few folks for though, and we do have the benefit that we have some of those monitoring systems to be able to do some things remote. Our folks down in Phoenix, they really know their stuff very well. With the benefit that because like right now, Phoenix is 2 hours behind us. When
Hmm.
we have just one person on later in the evening up here, they can be helping do some of that remote support as well. They
Nice.
can log in and see our QSys designs. They can log in. We've got GVE running across the campus up here, so they can get in and get some of that stuff done. deep freeze, a lot of things that we can do remotely up here, even our nav system. So we've got a lot of remote capabilities in a lot of our spaces, which is really helpful.
Nice. Cool. And yeah, you're right. That kind of benefit of multiple time zones for as many times as it may pull people out of, weird, put people into weird times, like the multiplier effect of, having people naturally available earlier and later for stuff is kind of that's a force multiplier, I think, is how people might refer to it.
Yeah, it's definitely a huge help and just a different kind of skill set. Each of us kind of has our own little area that we specialize in a little bit. So it's really nice to have, those remote capabilities in the space that we have it more fully fleshed out in.
Cool. Well, thank you for sharing. So, when getting to know somebody in the industry, a colleague like this, I always start with, how did you end up working in AV? Because usually people, like, somewhere along the line in almost everyone's story, there's an accident. You know what I'm saying? Some people ended up here because they meant to, but that seems to be the minority or not. So, like, what is your story that leads you to, working in AV? And I love the learning style title of the department rather than like the AV department. Oh, that was fun. If you're watching, that happens to everybody. The automatic lights just turned off on them in your room. You can get up and jump around and turn them back on if you want.
Oh, I will. So,
Well
when
done.
I was growing up, I had the benefit of being exposed to a decent amount of IT, and I thought that's what I'm going to go do. And then I realized I do not like programming very
Mhm.
much.
Okay.
So I jumped out of that and I went into social work. And so I've got actually my master's in counseling with a school specialization, and
Wow.
I did mental health counseling and child protection and voc rehab for a bit over a decade. And I only switched over to like the IT AV kind of area less than 2 years ago. I had been working for the state of Iowa for a good while, and I thought I worked too hard and too much to not enjoy what I do. And
Yeah.
I was just kind of burnt out on social working. So made the, jump over. I started getting certs and stuff, so I had at least something, because I didn't have much on paper to say that I know at all what the heck I'm doing. Still don't know that I know a whole lot of what the heck I'm doing, but
Nobody really knows what they're
yeah,
doing.
that's the
We're all
case, right?
just, figuring it out as we go along.
So working on certs, and I love learning, so it gave me a good place to always have an evolving learning set that I can be working from. And was fortunate enough to get in with the learning environments team here and just kind of gone from there and kept working on certs and learning new things and loving it.
Okay, so one, that's awesome. It's only 2 years in. That's you're a newbie, but what that means is, I mean, you didn't come in then to AV cold 2 years ago, right? There must have been. How did the learning environments end where you land? I mean, did you really come in cold and be like, well, I better start getting training, or there must have been something that was already there for you?
I I have like I said, I've always loved more the hardware side of IT as opposed to like sitting down and programming.
Yeah.
Um, and it's always been in the back of my head, like, yeah, maybe I should have done that. Part of it, psychology and computers, there's an overlap in my head, kind of,
Mm-hmm.
we work in somewhat similar ways. But yeah, about 3 years ago, I just started in earnest working on A plus was the first one that I went and started working on, and then just kind of kept rolling the certs so that I had at least something. When I came here, I think I was just about to take Network Plus, had just gotten both of the A plus certs
Okay.
done, and ITIL. That
Mm-hmm. Sure.
we actually require ITIL for all of our IT here, so
So do we. Yeah.
that was a fortunate one that I was able to get while I was still with the state of Iowa before I made the jump over. So yeah, it was mostly a cold jump over.
Wow.
Besides just my own little kind of personal interests and stuff.
Cool. That is a different story than a lot of people have. You know what I'm saying? So then, when you were there, and this is for my own curiosity, you're going, okay, I want to make this jump. I need to get some of these certs. I'm going down that road. Did you just sort of self study for those? Were there programs you used? Was there like your own self education in that when you thought, hey, it's time for a career change? where did you go to train yourself for that career change?
So no sponsorship, obviously, but any of those, the trifecta of CompTIA, your
Mm-hmm.
Security Plus, Network Plus, A Plus, Professor Messer has his free whole courses online.
Mm-hmm.
I've I think for A plus I bought one of the exam books, maybe for Network Plus as well. I'm actually working on Security Plus right now, hoping to do that
Nice.
in a little bit less than a month, just so I have the trifecta. Um, just the free learning online as much as possible. And once I knew there was a good chance of me getting this, that's when I really started going in and learning the more AV specific, like getting the Dante certifications.
Mm-hmm.
I knew this was a QSys house, so I started getting the QSys stuff, started getting the Extron stuff. Once I had a university that I could say, yep, I'm with them, so let me get into the trainings
Those
there.
ecosystems, yeah.
Hmm.
Wow, that's also there's two things, which is that story is one can be convicting or scary to those of us that that I'm at a community college, and one of the things we try and target for is job retraining, right? And we have programs designed to help you to get your A plus and to do Network Plus and that sort of thing. But the reality is a lot of those things now, those whether people like to refer to those certifications as some level of micro credential or something like that. Like the value proposition has to be significant because you can learn these things on your own and go get it and look at you're an example of that.
Yeah, CCNA was the hardest of the ones that
Yeah.
I've done. But everyone kind of has its own little challenges. But yeah, for the most part, it's been the free materials available online.
That's awesome. It's the so my master's degree is actually kind of like in instructional design and some of the science behind learning and all that. And this is what an example of the connectivist model of learning. You know what I'm saying? Like anybody out there need an example of why lecture style delivery of information is outdated is because repositories of knowledge exist and our value add is coming alongside students to help guide and curate that experience that they can make for themselves. So that's very interesting. That's awesome.
Well, and I like to think of myself somewhat as an example of the when hiring for AV, like you can train a lot of
Yeah.
that stuff. But the people skills, like, yep, went to grad school for that, yep, went to undergrad for that, learn dealing with people, dealing with situations. And I mean, I guess I've worked in a lot of stressful situations. When I worked in mental health, I worked at an inpatient mental health facility up in Yankton, South Dakota, and it was a crisis ward. And so, like, having people trying to literally kill you and stuff like that, like the
Yeah.
stress management, this is nothing.
So that like I had pinned that in there, but that's a perfect transition to the that back. It's really fascinating. My background in psychology and social work and the human interaction part of it that I love, which is so then if you're going to move into technology, I feel like AV is where it's going to be. It's going to be end user focused. It's going to be relating to the humans and the technology part of it. But on that front, like how do you, I mean, I would actually go back to start is why was that sort of human psychology your interest at the time to go and get that degree? You know what I'm saying? What is it about you that said that's what I want to do with, with my college years?
Well, and it's all still super interesting and fascinating. Like when I'm doing my learning, because I'm one of those that most of my downtime is learning as well. I
Mm-hmm.
try to kind of rotate a little bit between stuff learning for work versus stuff that I would call maybe more personal. Um, I like to learn history. I like to learn psychology, anthropology. I like to really learn a large diversity of things,
Mm-hmm.
um, which I think has helped me get to where I am. But I think that high depth looking at yourself, learning how to talk to people in a variety of situations, and working through your own stuff as well. Part of going to grad school for counseling is you have to take counseling, which
Mm-hmm.
anyone and everyone should do. You don't have to be sick to feel better. Got it out there.
But
But
you're a listener. You're not like that's literally it's Therapy for everybody. Exactly. You have a doctor even when you're not sick. It's like having a personal trainer for your brain. It's
That's right.
yes, 100%
You need
co-sign.
someone outside your bubble to talk to.
Yeah, you can't. Self-awareness is such a key. You didn't, and it's almost impossible to achieve any true level of self-awareness without mirrors out, up with you, and your friends and family are biased. Sometimes you need an unbiased view. Okay, thank you. That was yes, awesome.
Yeah, and everyone
Please.
has a million and one excuses not to do it, and it's
Yep.
scary as hell. Do it. Don't care.
Yes,
Uh,
yes,
but also the being recorded while you're doing things, while you're giving your own therapy sessions to people, and just getting used to what it's like to hear your own voice, being comfortable with, I that that's all very scary, but that made me able to do what I do now.
yeah. So then that I love this. So to be in a technology support role, like you said, so one the barrier of probably the day in and day out fight or flight adrenaline response of things that could happen, like you said, is way less than if you're working in some of the environments you've worked in before. So does that like I'm sure that helps with some level of perspective when other people maybe are, feeling pressure or feeling panic, but it feels like you just must be on the cutting edge then of, dealing with customers because you could psychoanalyze anybody, you know what I'm saying, from the help desk seat.
It does definitely help with the human perspective and the crisis perspective. So, when they push out a bad update and suddenly campus is down, like just working through it
Mm-hmm.
without panicked.
Yeah. No, you obviously you're trained for dealing with, I, if I'm feeling something, okay, I'm recognizing an adrenaline spike. It's okay. Let it come up and crest. I know it's not going to be forever. Like some of that stuff that is difficult for people to work through unless you intentionally think about it. Your brain chemicals are making you do weird things all the time, whether you acknowledge it or not.
It is who we are, and we
Nice.
only have a little bit of control over it.
Well, I love where this is going because I think we think we have a whole lot of deterministic control of, like you said, our own destiny and our own thoughts and feelings and emotions. And I feel like this you should. All right, I like that. This is the future work here in the analysis of the psychosis of AV people and how we ended up where we are. We may have to challenge you with that with that effort.
Well, and I have had at least a little bit of management experience on the side then as well. So, like with child protection,
Yeah.
I'd done that for a while and got into a supervisory role there. So I was able to, do the hiring and the discipline and the people managing, not just necessarily the field stuff.
So, and this is a question then: does a training in human behavior and psychology did that? There's I love that. I think that would make for a really great manager. And either didn't drive any of the people you supervise crazy when they would come to you with something, and you'd be like, "Well, tell me why you feel that way."
I would never approach someone that way.
Okay, good.
That's the thing.
Yeah,
The cliche stuff. People have seen so many movies about,
exactly.
that it's careful wording
Yeah.
and just always being mindful.
Love it. But that's, it's such a key. And actually some of, my wife has been on the show a couple of times. She works in human resources and that her specialty in that is training people in terms of managing and supervising other people. It's really the hallmark. And so much of it is that it is your own self-awareness and then your mindfulness in the things that you're doing and acting by design instead of by default, not just imitating the way you've seen other people do something, but taking actions of your own intent. So look at, we got way off the AV topic in a hurry. That's fantastic. I love it.
Yeah, we didn't, because it's all everyone we work with, everything we do. Technology is only a part.
Yeah.
We wouldn't be here if it wasn't for our students, our faculty, our staff, all the people. Like, if we were all just in a dark closet working on things remotely, that we couldn't do that for everything.
Yeah. I totally agree. No, I'm I love technology. I love what technology can do when only in the context of how it enables people to achieve something. Otherwise, I completely lose interest in it. You know what I'm saying? Like technology for technology's sake is boring. Technology that changes human experience is thrilling. So I agree. I love it. That's where where the extroverts of to the technology world tend to go to, or those really the people connected side of it that I find my community.
On that note,
Hmm.
you say that you can predict someone's Myers-Briggs.
Yes, but see, I don't. I haven't spent enough. I need more time. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
that's
Like
fair. That's fair.
this is yes, yes, but I don't. I'm not there yet. We'll
Maybe
see. I
another
don't even.
half hour.
Maybe another another half hour. I'm not like I have been able to do that. I like to do. I think it's fun and really because it sparks whether you're right or wrong, it sparks conversations that I think are really interesting. But yes, I'm a Myers Briggs fiend. I love it. Okay, so then let me turn you to a more concrete thing, which is what is something that's been very cool to see, even though admittedly, like there's a whole lot going on in Hetman, the stuff we're doing that I'm just not involved in. And but to be able to watch from afar what you have been able to do with the advisory groups and the advisory boards has been fantastic. So what is your what is your interface that has come in terms of Hetman involvement?
Yeah, I just really Hetma and following, the podcasts that got me into this world, and I joined in, and I only really started kind of popping my head out a little bit more late last year.
Mm-hmm.
I went to Infocom and whatever, but to try and really get joined in. Uh, so around, I don't know, October or so, I was really talking to Teddy Murphy, and I'm like, how can I get more involved? How can I do something to help contribute to things? Um, and at that point, they had mentioned that the advisory board, the seat was vacant for that chair. So I'm like, sure, I'll get in. Tell me about it. What do I need to do? And there wasn't a lot already set up for it.
Right.
There was a bit of a vision, but there hadn't been sort of a consistent practice with it, is kind of my understanding.
Exactly right.
So I really kind of had it as my own to make up. And they said, here's some basic ideas, go with it. And so I've just kind of taken it and ran and tried to see what I can do with it. And I'm not saying it's right, wrong, whatever, but it's at least a way that I've kind of spun with it. And with that, I feel like we've gotten to this point where people, ideally in the Hetman community, but as well as our sponsors, are starting to see benefit in it.
Mm-hmm.
Just before this session, we had an advisory board meeting with PTZ Optics, and it was a great way to learn more about what they've got coming, what they're going to show at Infocom, and just to really kind of connect with people from our sponsors in a way that you would never be able to. I'm at Creighton University in Omaha. Like, I'm not going to go be able to talk to most of these folks in a fairly intimate level
Mm-hmm.
being out here in the middle of nowhere. But now I can get in these meetings that, up to 20, give or take, other people, but a lot of folks are quiet, and I'm able to ask my questions, able to see their thoughts on things, tell them about my pain points, and while we're all very similar, we all have our little minutia that differentiates us from someone else, or we're at a different point of okay, this year in this refresh cycle, we're looking at a different type of camera, or this year we're looking at whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's been amazing to try and get out there and talk to all these folks to my benefit as well as theirs. And then ideally the benefit of the community too. But this is something that's provided as part of their sponsorship. They, when signing up to be a sponsor of HETMA, they've agreed to have this option of having these advisory board meetings. So I want to make sure that we are giving them something that's of benefit to them. So they're, getting that additional part of what their money's worth is.
And what is the value? So why is having an advisory board something that is of value to a manufacturer? What is it that they're getting out of these that makes it an attractive part of sponsorship?
So for a lot of folks, everyone kind of does it a little bit differently. We've had some folks that come out and they would, you know, a lot of folks had no idea what to expect with these. So there's a little bit of pre-coaching on kind of what to expect. But come out and ask, okay, this is what we do. What do you all need?
Mhm.
Having that open dialogue about it. Then to have them come back months later, maybe Infocom time, and say, here's our new product. This solves for your pain point. Go forth and use this. What can we do in the next version?
Yeah.
To be able to really get something that will help out other people that are in our vertical, because our vertical should be a focus. We buy a lot of units. Everyone, we are a big buyer of a lot of the technology. A lot of folks, we had one with Yamaha recently, and it was just kind of that back and forth dialogue about what are we doing in our classrooms? How are we using this? What would be a benefit for lecture capture? Are people still, streaming? Are people doing X, Y, or Z? So it might be having folks come out and talk to us in a way that they've not been able to either. They
Yeah.
can get 1,000 people coming by it at a vendor show, but to really connect and get some of those individual stories is not something that they may be able to do with the bandwidth they've got there.
Yeah. So it feels like, like you said, that there was always a vision of being able to create a win-win sort of pathway for manufacturers to get actionable input from us as customers, so that they could make things that solve our problems, and then we would get the benefit of having products that are more attuned to our feedback. And that's the kind of that win-win value proposition. But it took someone to come in and say, like, okay, no problem, I'll pick it up and I'll take it on, even if like there is no what to do, there's just sort of a why. All right, I'll pick up the mantle and figure out the answers to the how questions and the what questions. So first, I appreciate that. But second, sometimes that can be a challenge for people, which is they'll say, yeah, I want to volunteer, tell me what to do and I can do it. Versus, yeah, I want to volunteer and I will also figure out what it is I'm going to do. Is that, in this case or in other cases, is that something that comes natural for you? Like, okay, I see a void of direction, and that's an opportunity to make something, versus a void of direction being a challenge of being able to move forward.
I definitely ask a lot of questions. I want to have like a real, even if there's not a specific process set, I want to have a very clear idea of as much as we know about what our goal outcome is,
Mm-hmm.
kind of like designing a classroom. Like, every classroom is going to be different. Don't ask what they want, ask what functional goal at the end they're hoping to achieve.
Mm-hmm.
And if this is the goal, these are the tools we have, try and piece it together in a way that kind of makes everything track. And so coming up with a spreadsheet of tracking of, when I've reached out to each of the individual sponsors, tracking when they've had their meetings, all the right people coming up with scripts that I put into the email so that I can make sure that I'm, having the right information when I reach out to folks, and then making sure that everyone's got, their equal access to it. And things got really complicated recently as we filled up every single slot that we have, because we do these at 1 Eastern on Wednesdays. We don't want to overdo it because otherwise we're going to get too few people. But except for the week of NWMet and Infocom, like through the end of our fiscal year, we have someone scheduled every single week. And obviously hoping that that continues into the next fiscal year. I mean, as things wind down, sponsors will re-up for the next year. Hopefully even more sponsors re-up for the next year. But then making sure that we're staying on top of it in advance to try and keep people so it's not just a pile on at the end.
Nice. But what a kind of an acknowledgement of the value of what this could be, the demand for it once you got it going. Like, that's been the story, is people want to participate, companies want the feedback, and it just seems like it's been going well. So if there are people listening who would like to be involved in these advisory groups, would like to join in some of these meetings so that their feedback could be part of what these manufacturers are hearing, how would they go about getting involved?
So we have the advisory board section of the HETMA website. I definitely encourage anyone to go there. We have all of the events posted there. I do usually try and post them as well to the closed community a little bit before the events too. they're definitely open to anyone in the community. You don't have to talk to come to these. You can, just have an inkling like, hey, maybe we're looking for a camera this next cycle. So let's go to this one that is going to have folks that are going to be talking about cameras. At worst, you've maybe lost an hour. These usually run about an hour. But ideally, this is some networking opportunity because you're able to see some folks from our sponsors, but also people from the HETMA community, obviously, as well. You might have things come up that are ideas that you never would have thought about. Everyone is welcome to come without question. But getting into that advisory board meeting section of the HETMA website is definitely the best way to do it. And never hesitate to reach out and ask for questions as well. We've got them scheduled, like I said, now starting through July. So definitely keep checking back every week, except for if there's, too big of an event. It may slow down as we get into too far into like July, August. We'll be busy and with people re-upping. We are slightly reducing the amount of advisory board sessions that people are being offered per year in this next coming year, largely because of demand, just so that we have that equal opportunity for everyone to get in there and have a meeting.
That's awesome. Well, I would encourage people to do that. And yeah, if you've never thought of doing something like this, I love the easy on-ramp that you're offering, which is there's no pressure. Like you can just come and listen. Everybody's invited. You never know what you might hear, and you never know what it might, what door it might open for you. So that's
and they're
cool.
all very chill. Like this is not some big CEO talking to us that we need to, stay in line. A lot of folks are asking questions during the session. It's very easygoing, and it's not something that people should feel stressed or intimidated about attending. I mean, that's got to hit me in a nutshell, really.
Yeah, exactly. It's still us,
Yeah.
Yeah.
We are pivoting people. We're people that make things work. We can make it look polished, but at the end of the day, it's for everyone. It's for us, by us. It's, we are just like anyone else that would be listening or watching or connecting to the site. Like, come in, hang out, see things. You don't have to talk. Eventually, we hope you do, because everyone's got good ideas that they should share, but it's for everyone.
That's awesome. Well, Chris, thank you so much for sharing so much about yourself and that in this first half hour here. If people wanted to get in touch with you directly or find you on social media, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, so my HETMA email address is just advisory@hetma.org. So anyone can reach out to me there. Otherwise, my email is pretty simple. It's just chriskelly@creighton.edu is the easiest one to remember to reach out to me with any questions. Never hesitate to reach out. And I'm also one of those that tends to be a little bit type A about my email. So I check them all every day, and I leave every day with an empty email inbox.
Oh God,
so
wow.
That's just... I don't like to leave people waiting. I never like to think that I'm leaving someone waiting to get a response to something. So even if it's just to say, hey, I'll check into this and I'll get back to you, that's one of my priorities.
Cool. Well, I will link both of those in the show notes for everybody and invite you to reach out to Chris about first, if you need a recommendation on a therapist, perhaps, and then also to get involved in the advisory. I didn't even think to draw a connection between the advisory boards and therapy. There's probably a connection there that I haven't even thought of yet. But Chris, thank you so much for taking the time to chat about us, to chat with us about all of that stuff today, and a pleasure to get to know you a little better.
Thank you so much. I feel very humbled and honored to even be on with the great Ryan Gray.
How dare you, sir? How dare you? Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the AV-IT Amplifier. Tune in next week for more with today's guest. It'll be great or your money back. Your host has been Ryan Gray. He's on the tweeters at Ryan_A_Gray, or find him on LinkedIn to connect. Please subscribe and give the show a rating and review wherever you get your podcasts. This show is brought to you by higheredav.com. The views expressed here are not necessarily those of our respective institutions, employers, or sponsors. Everyone hang in there, go easy, and we'll be back next week.